All right. Troy, we're back.
We're back.
Hopefully people are listening twice. Welcome to You'll Only Listen Twice, our Bond retrospective. We are on the second film for our marathon, if you say. I'm Jake.
I'm Troy.
And yeah, this week it's Dr. No. Last week we had a very miserable slog known as Casino Royale, which was Troy's very first time watching it. Troy and I kind of had similar things. I think you liked it more than me, probably.
I mean, I liked it for what it was. A 1950s TV show. I'd still give it 2 stars. Like, that doesn't mean it was necessarily good.
Exactly. And it's just kind of there. And now we're on to Dr. No.
The first real
movie. 1962's. Would you consider this movie groundbreaking?
I would, in certain respects. In some respects, it's very similar to other film series of the time.
Yeah.
But as I'll point to later, there's stuff in this movie that got stolen from Marvel Comics to Die Hard.
Oh, yeah. I remember the Die Hard thing you were telling me yesterday. But actually, fun fact, that this was a DC comic. DC Comics did an adaptation of it for, I think it was like Showcase or something.
Mm-hmm.
And
Showcase, you're correct. It was a movie tie-in.
It was. So, and there's also, it's not affiliated with the comic strip version of Dr. No. Or was it the same thing? Was it republished? I don't know. Actually, no, it wasn't, because it was.
I don't know.
It was based on the movie, probably. I think.
Yeah, and the James Bond comic strip adapted a couple James Bond movies to it, not just Dr. No.
No.
So unless-
It didn't. The comic strip wasn't adapting the movies; they were adapting the books. I have the Dr. No one, and it comes with like a couple other ones like Diamonds Are Forever and stuff like that, which are not like the movie, but we'll get to those. now on to Dr. No. Troy, it was your second time watching it, right?
It was my second time watching Dr. No. Dr. No was the first James Bond movie I ever saw as part of a Letterboxd challenge. Follow and subscribe on Letterboxd if you do, Troy Peterson. And I watched Dr. No as part of a Letterboxd challenge in our college library in 2015. And it was my first James Bond movie. But now this is my second time watching it after seeing a couple more James Bond movies. And my opinion is the same. It is above average.
That is a very fair point to make. It wasn't the first Bond movie I've ever seen. I said in the last episode it's Thunderball, but we'll get to that. Dr. No is, though, like one of the ones I've seen the most, and it's in my top 10 favorite ones. It is painfully kind of average at times. I have to admit, even as a Bond fan, it's like a movie that has like glimmers of brilliance. You know, because you have the introduction of James Bond, which is like the most iconic character introduction in all of film. You got the gun barrel, you got the James Bond theme that plays at inappropriate times. you got the Ken Adams. I think what really sets it apart is like the last point in the movie once they reach the lair. It's like, I think the beginning is really good. Like that makes it like intense. Sean Connery's performance, and once they get to Dr. No, once they get to Crab Key at the very end, because the thing that like kind of pushes it over the edge of like kind of like a mediocre action movie from the time to like something new is the design of Dr. No's lair with the stolen painting. That did you know about that stolen painting? You know, the part where Bond like is walking to the dinner table and it's like the painting is like, what? Do you remember that part?
Yes, I was reading about this online last night. So for those of you who haven't seen Dr. No or have, there's a scene where James Bond is. Yeah, you should probably watch it before this podcast. We may only get to a plot summary in the next 50 minutes. But James Bond is in Dr. No's lair of everything he's stolen, and he sees this painting that's of the Duke of Wellington by Goya, that had been stolen around the release of the movie, and there
Hmm.
was an international manhunt for it, and they couldn't find it. So that's a great gag for people in the 60s. I think they said preview audiences spent 30 seconds laughing at it. Like people in 1962 thought it was hilarious. But now when you're
Now
watching the
it's
movie and
horribly
you don't
awkward
know,
now because there's a music sting and everything. It's just like dun dun dun, and you're just like, what?
that's a painting, all right.
Yes, yes, it is.
James Bond likes art.
Should we do a plot? Yeah, well, let's do it. We could do a plot summary. You were saying that we might just get to the plot summary, but shall we? I'm gonna have you do it because I've seen the movie. I feel like I could have like just not watched the movie because it's kind of burned into my brain at this point. It's like one of the few Bond movies where
Mhm,
I pretty much know every single scene inside and out. Because
mhm.
I've seen it like at least 100 times in my life. But Troy, do you want to describe the plot of Doctor No?
All right, this is the plot of the movie from what I understand it. So, at the beginning of the movie, three blind mice plays. Assassins pretending to be homeless people are targeting top members of British government in Jamaica or something.
Well, just
This is tied to
it's just Strangways and his secretary that Professor Dent really
okay.
likes, which is a very bizarre scene that like is supposed to be like how Bond figures out he's bad. Spoilers.
Spoilers on Professor Dent, that immortal cinematic character
Henchman,
of
the bet one of
virtue.
the greatest cinematic henchmen. Actually, no, he
He
would go
has
on
a
to be the
spider.
body double of Blofeld in From Russia with Love and Thunderball. So, the actor
Well, that's a broccoli tradition. The broccoli family who produces these movies,
of just
they will
reusing.
frequently promote people to Blofeld from previous movies who are clearly dead. And then they're like, time for you to play Blofeld. But Blofeld, the head of Spectre, does not appear in this
Are
movie
you trying to
because
give an
there is a
explanation for
plot.
Charles Gray, the best Blofeld? Hot
Yes.
take, hot take. Charles Gray, best Blofeld. Actually, like I just became like a douchebag YouTuber for a second. I mean, I already feel like a douchebag YouTuber because I'm wearing a hat that says World Domination from the Triple X thing I went to like years
Oh,
ago. I bet it's spy themed,
oh.
but I'm slowly becoming a douchebag.
I'm wearing a 1977 Star Wars shirt, so I retain my integrity against all odds. Um,
Anyway, back to the summary.
Back to the summary. So, uh, there's someone is using some sort of radioactive transfrequency to throw American nuclear missiles off the charts. So James Bond is called away from a card game where he is about to fulfill a very long-term stable relationship with a woman named Sylvia Trench to go to Jamaica to figure out what's going on and why Strange Ways was killed and if there's a connection between all these things. So he goes to Jamaica and he does nothing for 40 minutes. Besides,
No, he investigates. He takes one of his balding hairs out and then he puts it on a closet and he goes like someone broke in. That he does something.
this movie is James Bond, the world's greatest detective. He actually like interviews witnesses, collects data from sources. Like he is
Drinks.
a working professional secret agent in this film.
Yeah, the early ones actually show him like do investigative shit, which is funny. And this one probably the most obvious because there's not a lot of action besides the very first Bond action scene when he fights the driver that eats his cigarette,
Yes.
which is a good, which he Bond punches him so hard that he starts bleeding on the opposite side of his face.
Oh yeah. I know what happened there.
But
But
that's just how tough Sean Connery is.
oh, Sean Connery?
Oh, I was saying that's how tough Sean Connery is because he punched him so hard that the guy was bleeding on the other side of his face. What a
Well,
badass.
we need to get to Connery right after the summary. But Connery basically got the role for being too tough for a Disney movie. Like he was so tough in a Disney children's film that the Broccoli's were like, he's James Bond.
Well, specifically, I think they had a recommendation for him from somebody they knew, and then they watched Darby O'Gill and the Little People out of all movies.
Where
To
he is
He is the most Scottish. This is Sean Connery's first role as the most Scottish Irishman ever. A role that he would win an Oscar for in The Untouchables.
that that's a good one. Yeah, he's just a guy trying to marry your daughter, and there's a scene. He gets a singing number in Darby O'Gill, which clearly inspired the singing scene in Doctor No with the immortal hit "Under the Mango Tree." But there's a
Yep,
scene at the end of Darby O'Gill where Sean Connery has to fight the guy who's been picking on his father-in-law the whole movie, and he hits him so hard in a bar fight in this lovable children's Disney movie. He beats him up so hard they have to cut away to Darby O'Gill just reacting to how badly Sean Connery is wiping the floor with him,
that is
which is
true.
ironic because his stunt doubles do most of the fighting in the James Bond movie. But
Connery does a good amount of fighting. He just can't do spiders. Connery's not on the level of more of like not doing stunts. Like he does a fair amount of them. Or at least like he can do more than more. No pun intended, but like
more than more than
more than more. The Connery that should be his memoirs. More than
he is
more.
younger than
True. He started out as a bodybuilder. He was
yes.
he wasn't in competition for Mr. Universe, or was he, or some he was in some
I,
bodybuilding competition.
yeah, he started off as bodybuilder and a model.
Yeah. And a truck
But
driver.
yeah, and truck driver. He was a manly man who went into acting right as his hair was starting to go, and
No, he became
he
James Bond as his hair was going. But in Doctor No, it's his real hair, because his hair gets like
yeah.
only in Doctor No and For Much With Love does his hair get messed up. But then all the other ones, you could tell when it's wig, or when it's a toupee, and when it's his hair, by the amount of times it gets messed up. And but he was actually very brave about going bald. He actually preferred not wearing a toupee. He would always like
He did.
surprisingly not vain about his appearance.
Yes. It just I think with Bond he just had to wear the toupee because the whole image of Bond is the masculine, virile, walking British imperialist who has to explain
Yeah.
science to everyone stupider than the average
Guys, there's
British.
no such there's no such thing as dragons. Oh my god, we got to get to that part. But anyway, we need to keep going through the. Do we need to keep going through the summary, or basically he has to investigate?
We he has to go investigate Crab Key. He finds out everything that's going on the island is connected to Crab Key with his friend, well, his assistant Quarrel, and he goes to the island and he finds this woman in a bikini with the intelligence of an 8-year-old. And then in the last 20 minutes of the movie, they go into this really cool secret lair and they finally meet Dr. No and he gives them dinner and they reward him for giving him dinner by murdering him and destroying his secret lair. And then they have sex in a boat, him and the woman with the intelligence
Well,
of
they
an 8-year-old.
choose to get
And that's
stranded
Dr.
in
No.
the middle of the Caribbean on a boat so they can bang, basically.
Yes.
And
Well, to
that,
be fair, the government comes to get them.
yeah, no,
And then they
that's what I'm
take the
saying,
rope
is that
off.
the government comes to get them, but they
Oh,
choose to just get stranded in the boat. And so you're left wondering, is Bond dead for the rest of the movie? Because he it's like the end, he just chose to be like shipwrecked in the middle of the Caribbean.
to be fair, the credits don't say James Bond will return in From Russia with Love. So I don't know. Originally, when they were casting the movie, they wanted Cary Grant to play James Bond
That is
because
true.
they kind of saw the James Bond movies as being North by Northwest, the series.
Yeah.
But Cary Grant said he wouldn't do any sequels.
You'd
So
only
he
do
turned
one
it
movie,
down.
yeah. And then they also asked James Mason, another North by Northwest
Mm.
alum, uh, Captain Nemo himself. he was gonna do, he said that he would be
Captain Nemo.
down, but only for 2 movies or something. I think he was just like,
And then they asked
you
Martin Landau, and he said he'd only be down for 3 movies. And so they asked Sean Connery, and he's like, I wasn't even in North by Northwest. What are you doing?
Eva Marie Saint was somewhere along the line too.
Eva Marie Saint would only do 24 movies,
Yeah,
but she wouldn't sign on to the 25th. So they said,
very,
no
very
dice.
insistent about that. So
They're like, this is a 25 film series. You don't have time to die, or you make no
you
time to die.
The series will never die. Dun dun dun.
Oh, we'll see.
What?
I was going to say, even at the beginning, you kind of see why Bond has the appeal to live forever, and
Mhm.
also why it's very hard for this franchise to go on forever. Because on one hand, you have the exciting layers, the action,
Yeah.
the world traveling, all the great characters. But then on the other hand, like the beginning of the movie is literally poor, homeless people of Jamaica killing rich white people in their homes and at their country clubs. So from the very beginning, the series is kind of saying, oh no, the rich white people, they are being threatened. Quick, send Bond with his good gun. He needs to shoot them with the good gun. We got letters about his gun.
We got.
And
I read you the passage that one time in the book, how just how just how bad it was in the book, like the descriptions,
yeah,
which I'm not going to go into
the
here,
books are super
but
racist.
yes,
Yeah.
it's just like,
So they
oh
do
my
limit that.
goodness.
What did you? I remember we were talking about the character of Quarrel,
Yes,
who is kind of an interesting character type. He is Bond's assistant ally who works
ally.
with him
It's like the
in the
tradition
middle
of
of the
Bond,
movie.
like the. Well, he gets 2 allies in this because he meets up with Felix, who wasn't in the book, but he also gets to meet up with Quarrel, who is supposed to be a CIA agent, uh, and like fisherman and stuff, but like for some reason he believes in dragons, and that drove me crazy.
Yes,
Like even when I was a kid, I'm just like, why the fuck, if he's like a fucking CIA agent, why would he buy into this bullshit other than like, I'm like, is this just like a weird racist shit? Or like, what the fuck is this?
to be
Like
fair
that's
to the character of Quarrel, Honey Rider, our main woman, like love interest, also believes in dragons.
that
And
is
there's a solid 7 to 8 minute chunk of this movie where James Bond, the strong British man, good at card games and has an uptown apartment, has to explain to a woman and a black man that dragons aren't real. And it's like, why is this so long? Why
and
is it such a
also
big part of this?
and also when they fight the dragon, it's just like, it's just a truck. And I'm just like, yeah, it's just a tank. And then
And
like
then
Coral just stands in one place and then just is like, I think he just wanted to just, I think he was just done. He's just like, you know what, fuck this. He became radioactive on that island. He knew that he would, the rest of his life would just be, he'd be riddled with cancer or something. That's the only thing that makes sense for why he doesn't move. Because it's not a particularly fast moving dragon tank. It's like it's just like slowly coming at him and shooting fire, and he just is like, you know what, I'm just gonna burn to death, I guess. It
he's so embarrassed at believing in dragons that once he
yes.
saw was a tank up close, he didn't know what to do because he's like, how can I live with myself? I'm that embarrassed at believing in dragons.
Exactly. But I like the character. I don't like that. I don't like how he like, yeah, there are
Yeah,
dragons. That drives me nuts. That seriously that always drove me nuts.
he's definitely a subservient to Bond, not an equal to Bond like the other white characters are, except for Honey Rider, who is dumb. So, but
Just no, but she knows that like she knows that freaking praying mantises eat their children. So she knows more things than Bond.
What's the line where James Bond goes, "Dragons aren't real"? What does she tell him?
Have you ever seen uh, a praying mantis eat his lover to death as they're making love or something like that? And he's just like, no, I haven't.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I
that's like the
have.
third.
What?
It's like a third line. There's like one about like tigers jumping through trees or something. Like it's just bizarre animal
Yeah.
metaphors that have nothing to do with dragons.
But she knows those things, so.
She is set up. Honey Rider is the first, depending on how you count as Bond girls, there are about maybe 4 Bond girls in this movie. But
Yes.
the iconic one in the main Bond girl of the movie is Honey Rider.
Ryder.
Out of what?
Honey Ryder.
Who sounds suspiciously like Sylvia Trench at the very beginning of the movie.
Trench. Sylvia Trench.
Every woman in the movie
Is dubbed by the
every woman in
same
the movie
person.
except for
Miss Taro, I think,
dubbed
is.
by the same woman.
Yes. Nikki Vandersill was her name, who also, I think, did the singing voice in My Fair Lady of Audrey Hepburn. I could be wrong, but I think that's what.
No. That was Marnie Nixon.
Oh crap! You're
Marnie
right.
Nixon did My Fair Lady, King and I, and maybe even West Side Story. I think she did West Side Story too.
Oh, then who the hell did she do? Like, but I thought I saw Nikki Vandersill did something else, like did like a singing voice in some musical, and I'm just getting them confused. I don't know. Let's go back to the beginning really quick. Let's talk about Sylvia Trench.
Yeah.
Let's.
Sylvia Trench is a very little known Bond character,
Yes.
which Jake will now explain.
Well, Sylvia Trench is basically Bond's like girlfriend. Like at the beginning, she was meant to be. In the beginning, he's going on dates and hooking up with her, and that's like his steady girlfriend, and then the rest are like his like he the rest of the Bond girl. But she was meant to be like the reoccurring one, like the one that would like more. I don't know what's the word to describe it. Domesticate Bond, I guess. But she only appeared in 2 movies.
Yes, she is at the beginning of Dr. No and From Russia with Love.
Yeah.
They meet for the first time at the beginning of Dr. No. She's the one who asks him his name, and he goes, Bond, James Bond, cigarette. And then From Russia with Love, they're on a date. And then she disappears.
They're on a date. They're on a picnic, and she's like, "Where were you in Jamaica? What were you doing there? I haven't seen you in months." And then like she's like trying to unbutton his shirt, and he just goes like, Psh! I'm just like, "Jeez." And like,
I don't like you.
He's like smacking. He's like getting her head. She's like trying to like rip off his shirt and shit. And then like Moneypenny's just like, "You need to come to the office," and he's just like, "I'll be there in a bit." Well, we'll get to From Russia with Love. I digress.
Yeah.
But
I believe I should have written this down, but I think
Eunice Gayson.
Yes, she does a good job. But
Yeah.
Here's an interesting fun fact.
And her voice is in the
Here's
trailer.
an interesting fun fact.
I don't know why she's dubbed. Oh wait, what?
Yes. Okay, so Lois Maxwell, Miss Moneypenny, she had the choice between playing Sylvia Trench or Miss Moneypenny, and because Sylvia Trench has implied nudity from her back, Lois Maxwell picked Moneypenny to play.
Mhm.
And part of me is curious, like, what that would have meant if Lois Maxwell had chosen to play Sylvia Trench instead. Would she have become more important than Moneypenny, you think, to the series?
I don't know, because I still think that like the idea of giving Bond like a girlfriend for back home is just kind of odd, you know. And
it makes him seem like more of a scumball than he already is.
Yeah,
And he's a
exactly.
scumball.
It's just like I guess they were trying to think like, well, he needs to have at least like he needs to have like a double life or something, and I'm just like, why? His job is basically to travel the globe, stop bad guys, kill people, and meet beautiful women and stuff. Why do you need like a steady romantic interest, you know? Like it's just kind of odd. Like all of Bond's romances should just end in tragedy.
He left Honey Rider out in the Pacific Ocean.
He decided to swim towards Felix's boat at the end, but we didn't get to see that. And Honey Rider's just like, oh shit.
Underneath the mango tree, my lovely husband.
But anyway, what I was saying about Eunice Gase, so her voice is actually in the trailer to Dr. No, and I don't know why she was dubbed. I guess like it was too. They wanted to get like a more like, because she has kind of a high British like.
I decided to accept your invitation.
Kind of, I think they wanted more of that.
I decided to accept your invitation.
But I don't know. I don't get why. I can only speculate. But like, her voice sounded fine, and it's even weirder because Honey Rider and Sylvia Trench sound the exact same. So it's just like, what? it's a very odd choice that I don't know if we'll ever get the answers to unless I do a deep dive into like Q&As with Albert R. Broccoli, or why am I Terrence Young? I keep forgetting.
Yes. The director of the film, Terrence Young.
Speaking of which, let's talk about Terrence Young as a director of Bond. What do you think? Besides, I know you just said you. But...
I think he defined the series. He did only 3 movies, correct? Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and Thunderball.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yes, those are the only 3 of his movies I've seen, and I think he does a good job. But I think, for better or worse, he just establishes the formula for the series.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as hot on From Russia with Love and Thunderball as I know a lot of James Bond fans are. And I feel that part of it is Terrence Young kind of has a laid-back style where he just kind of lets the movie go where it goes. Like, you never really feel like it's building to something, but the individual scenes aren't bad. Like, he's fine. I would say he's an okay director based on these films. The formula here is like great.
Moments of brilliance, I think, like in his directing, but like most of the movie is just kind of, it's shot fine. Like, it looks like it's lit. The only really interesting like things are, you know, like the opening titles and the gun barrel, and then the introduction of James Bond. I think the scene where Professor Dent gets the spider from Dr. No is really well done.
Yeah, that's really well done.
I like the spider scene. I think that's good, even though the music makes it a little. But we'll get to Monty Norman soon. Yeah, like all the stuff in the lair is like pretty well done. But yeah, I would say I agree. Like he's kind of just okay. Like I think once Guy Hamilton comes in, Guy Hamilton was able to get like the, you know, like the back and forth relationship with like Q, and like, you know, fleshed out a little bit more of Bond's personality and stuff. But like Terrence Young definitely had like the building blocks there to set up the coolness and the sophistication of him, I guess. But yeah, like most of the movie just kind of looks like just kind of bland. Kind of and I like the movie still. I'm being a pretentious film nerd because that's my degree. That's our degrees. We have
degrees in this.
I love this movie. Send your hate mail if you're upset of like saying Terrence Young didn't direct the movies well to I don't give a shit. James Bond 007.org.com at Google Images.
Our official podcast email.
So we talked about the Bond girls. Oh wait, we didn't talk about Miss Tarot at all.
We didn't really talk about Miss Tarot or Honey Rider in depth. Miss Tarot's a very strange Bond girl.
She's a femme fatale.
She's a femme fatale. Bond's way of getting her arrested is tricking her into having a marathon sex session with him.
Yeah, pretty much. Like
just another day.
Well, no, she tries to have him. She baits him into a trap, then ends up showing up. They have sex, and then he just arrests her afterward, which is that part of the movie I actually kind of think is really good because it kind of establishes Bond as he's kind of a dick. You know?
What I think is most interesting about Dr. No and Connery's interpretation is
Yes.
this movie is very infested in making sure you know James Bond is not a good guy. He is a
Yes.
007 agent. He is licensed to kill. He's an easygoing douchebag, essentially. Connery's affable, but he goes out of his way to be mean and indolent towards people.
Yes.
So yes, he does that to Miss Tarot. And in the film's most infamous scene, when the guy we were talking about earlier, Dent, tries to kill him after the spider fails, he
Right.
tries to shoot him 6 times.
Yeah.
And Connery has set up a double in his bed after the Miss Tarot. That was the trap. He set up a double in Miss Tarot's bed to elude the trap.
Mhm.
And then he goes, "Oh, yes, I see you have a Smith & Wesson. Well, you've had your 6." Then he shoots him, and he dies, and then he shoots him again. And as shot originally, he did shoot him 6 times.
I really wish that we could see that footage, but I guess, like, even as a kid,
Yeah, that'd be great.
that, like, what doesn't really get to me is the first time shooting him. What gets me is when he shoots him in the ass. When he's on the ground.
Yes.
That's the thing that disturbed me the most when I was a kid. It was just like, oh my god, because that whole scene of that whole part of the movie is just like, oh my god, and they got the sense of that, like, in the making of it, because they weren't sure if they were gonna have Bond let Dent go or whether he was just gonna shoot him to death. And so they're like, well, he's a 00 agent, literally licensed to kill, and we haven't had him kill anybody yet directly. Like, we've had him fight a driver, but we haven't had him murder someone. So let's just fucking murder him. And basically, yeah, that would have been intense just to have him get shot like a bunch of times. But we have the shot in the ass, and that does the job. It's kind of fucked. So it's fucked up enough.
Yeah. There's also a guard he knifes just so he can explain to Honey Rider that he's a 00 agent.
Yes.
Like, the producers were very concerned that people would not understand that James Bond is allowed to be a murderer by the British crown.
Basically.
Yes. Not in self-defense.
But, like
just
if
kill
he
them.
sees it fit, he will murder someone just to get the job done, which makes for some great action, interesting character, one of the best film characters ever. But yeah, no, it's some great stuff at that point.
He does have some sensitivity towards Honey Rider. Apparently, Sean Connery and Ursula Andress actually were having an affair during the film.
That doesn't surprise me. I think she was married to John Derek at the time.
Oh, I didn't know she was also married to John Derek.
Yeah, that's how she got the role, because John Derek took a couple photos of her in Italy or something. She was in like a wet t-shirt, and the producers were like, "This is our Honey Rider." I don't know why he's smoking a cigar like a hookah or something, but yeah, that's great. Hire her.
Honey Child Rider is her full English name.
Is it Honey
In the
Child or Honey
novel,
Chill? I never did.
Honey Chill.
Is it Honey Chill or Honey Child? Okay.
Yeah, in the book, her full name is Honey Chill or Honey Child.
I don't know how it's
Honey
pronounced, but yeah.
Chile.
I know that that's her full name, but
Yeah.
I don't know how it's pronounced.
No
And she's
one
supposed to
ever
be
says it,
naked
just there
in the
for the
book.
pun.
She's supposed to be naked. She's not in a bikini.
She is.
So
She's supposed to be naked when she emerges in that iconic scene in the two-piece bathing suit.
Yes.
She's supposed to just have her knife belt on and
Mhm.
snorkeling gear. And in the book, she has a broken nose, because in the book there's this weird... Ian Fleming did this whole weird thing about sexual assault with her character, where that happened to
that's
her,
in the movie too.
and it stunted her age.
Wait, what?
In the movie, isn't it just that Dr. No killed her dad? Isn't that just what happened during the movie?
I don't know if it was Dr. No killed her dad. Her dad is already dead, but like she goes into a backstory where she says that like her caretaker tried to assault her, and like that's still in the movie, like where she explains that. But I didn't know about the like it stunted her aging. That's fucking weird.
Yeah, but that's why she's like going around picking up seashells, is because she's a child and she can only visualize like doing children's activities like dragons and seashells. That's supposed to be the explanation for why she believes in dragons in the book.
Yikes.
So Ian Fleming, king of the questionable character choices, but
I mean, we all know that The Spy Who Loved Me, a James Bond novel from a first-person account of a woman who meets up with James Bond. We all know how much of a success that was. Da-dum, boom.
hi, you can have the rights to this movie, but please don't do anything with it. Please
Yeah,
come up with your own story.
Ian Fleming, not good at writing female characters. Not a strong suit.
No. What do you think of Honey Rider? Where would you put her in the pantheon of the Bond
Oh, easily
girl
top
cast?
5.
Okay.
I like the character in the movie. Her coming out of the ocean is like super iconic and stuff. Ursula Andress is beautiful. Like, she like just like in sheer iconic status alone gets her up there. And also, I like the character in the movie.
Yeah. I just wish she was more vital in the final fight against Dr. No instead of just being chained to a slab that's supposed to have crabs on it, but it doesn't.
Oh yeah.
Like, I wish she could have her revenge on Dr. No for killing her father.
But I don't
Like,
even
be
know
part
if
of
Dr. No killed her father, though. I don't think that's what happened in the movie. Dr. No is, though, like one of the ones I've seen the most. I feel like I could have like just not watched the movie because it's kind of burned into my brain at this point. It's like one of the few Bond movies where I pretty much know every single scene inside and out. Where I pretty much know every single scene inside and out. Pretty much know every single scene inside and out. Inside and out. Inside and out. Inside and out.
Oh, I thought you said that in the movie.
No,
Well,
her
maybe I
father
misremembered.
was like dead. Because I don't think Dr. No killed her father.
If it turns out Dr. No killed your father, Jake, you have to turn in your James Bond
I do.
fan.
For everybody getting mad at
I'm
me
gonna look this up.
that like Dr. No did kill her father, just Honey Chill Rider needs to get her revenge. You're a fucking idiot at gmail.com. Just send that to me and I'll throw it in the trash probably. Because I don't think so. Like, I've seen the movie enough times where I'm like, I don't think that's the case.
Huh. I thought it did, but it does appear her Wikipedia page does not mention Dr. No killing her father.
Yeah,
So I will say I am incorrect
told you.
for now.
But it would have been
But
better to
they
establish
should have
like
said
stakes.
Dr.
But it
No.
would have been weird if she didn't really get to do anything about Dr. No. Dr. No killed her father. I do admit that. Yeah, the only
Yeah.
thing, she kind of gets relegated to liability and damsel by the end of the movie, which is kind of, it's not like Tatiana Romanova or Pussy Galore like later on where they're very active in helping out Bond. But we'll get to those
Yes.
eventually. Should we talk about music? Should we talk about Monty Norman's weirdly dated score for the most part?
We can talk about music now. Yeah, the Monty Norman score is so unmemorable. I have already forgotten it.
That's the thing. It's
Um,
so dated that
it
it sticks out in my brain because every single moment is like Mickey Mouse to the fucking nth degree. Like when James Bond smashes the spider and they literally make it does the soundtrack to him smashing the spider with every snap, like the bam, 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 bam. It becomes like Norman Bates for a second, like smashing the spider, and it's just like, why was that choice made? Other than like that's what movies at the time did.
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna. I told you about this like a little bit ago, but like there is like I was watching this Q&A that Peter Hunt did, who edited the movie. He made in like 1994 or something, and he talked about Monty Norman's score, and he was just like, yeah, we weren't really satisfied with his score because it kind of sounded like a disaster movie, and it was like too cheesy. So at the last minute, they brought in John Barry, who came in and conducted the James Bond theme, which Monty Norman wrote. He took the beat from like a musical he was working on, so he wrote that. Even though like I've heard like John Barry claim that he was the one responsible for the James Bond theme. I mean, he was responsible for the sound, like the guitar, the jazz instruments, like that's him. But like the melody came from Monty Norman, and he was credited like for the most part, like on everything. But yeah, definitely the music would get better in later movies when John Barry was brought in. But I give credit for Monty Norman for coming up with the initial thing, even though the rest of the music is just very...
Yeah, it's very antiquated. And going back to the idea of Mickey Mousing it, I don't know if they were just so in love with the James Bond theme, and it is a great theme. It's an iconic piece of music, but they use it whenever James Bond does anything.
Yeah.
Like he walks into his apartment to check his mail.
Contribution.
And then walks through the lobby. Walks to get a taxi.
Oh, do you remember the part where he comes in and he checks in at the hotel, and the hotel concierge is like, here's your key, and he walks away and it's playing the Bond theme, and she's like checking out his ass as he's walking away.
Yeah, she's like looking at his butt. Every woman in the universe wants to have sex with James Bond, except Moneypenny, who does want to have sex with James Bond, but she knows that's dumb because he's stupid. So they have a nice little 5-minute flirtation every movie.
Well, that's the thing, is that Moneypenny does like the entire... Well, in the beginning, well, in Dr. No, she's more like, it's like flirty, but then it starts by the second movie. I think by From Russia with Love, Goldfinger specifically is when she's like, I really want to bang James Bond. But in the first one, she's very much like, do your job, you fucking weirdo, you Scottish man.
You know what won her heart? He gave him the thing he values most, what he used to kill people, his Beretta.
Yeah, it's weird how that scene is done, because that's straight out of the book, like word for word.
Yeah,
and it came from that man Jeffrey Boothroyd, who wrote, well, like in the book, Bond used a Beretta for a good number, for like every Bond novel before Dr. No. And Jeffrey Boothroyd, this American firearms expert who was a fan of the Bond books, wrote to Ian Fleming, was like, hey, Bond wouldn't use a Beretta. That's a lady's gun. That's a gun that would fit into a woman's handbag. He would use a Walther PPK. And so like Ian Fleming took this advice like into consideration, was just like, you know what? I'm going to name the character who, the armorer, after this Boothroyd, because he's the best. And he's actually given the description in the book, like the greatest armorer in the world or something like that, or arms expert. And so that is how Bond got his Walther PPK. And the movie, they keep that scene, even though we have it's actually kind of a weird development that Bond has like this like sentimental attachment to this gun. And he tries to steal it from he's like, oh yeah. I'll take the new gun, but I'm gonna walk out. And then 007, yes, just leave the Beretta. And then he just slowly puts it back on the table, like he's he's losing, like he's giving up a child or something. He's just like, I'm like, oh my god. It's a nice little scene. Even though it's like, it's weird because we don't really have any context as to why he loves his gun so much at that point. It's not like in the books where it's just like, oh, that's just the gun he used and now he's giving it up. And this is just like, oh, it's like a weird bit of character business that we just lifted from the book and we just like.
Got it. That whole scene is kind of interesting because that's the same scene where Bernard Lee says they work for MI7.
Yes.
And another thing, since I've been head of MI7,
because they didn't want to make MI6 mad. But then you pointed out They say MI6 in the rest of the movie.
Yes, they do. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense that, like, they went out of their way to dub it, and it's so obvious. It's just like, why did you do this? Like, I mean, if you're changing
I just imagine Albert Broccoli 2 weeks before the movie comes out saying, I hate all this dialogue. I'm going to get my friends over here. We're just going to redub the whole movie. We're going to redub the whole movie.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of a lot of the dubbers come back for later installments. Like the guy who plays the police chief guy, like dubbed a couple characters in later movies. I think he dubbed Tiger in You Only Live Twice, if I'm not mistaken. Tyga. We'll get to Tyga.
I was going to say, and of course, before we move on, we should point out that the character of Boothroyd would evolve into Q.
Yes, that is true.
Later film. Different actor.
I feel bad for that actor because just like I'm giving your walk-on role, having no idea that that character would be like one of the most iconic characters ever. Freaking Q. And right then he's just like, here's your gun. Welfare PPK, 7.65 mil with the delivery like a brick to the pipe glass window. Takes a brush silencer with very little reduction in muzzle velocity. Thank you, Major Boothroyd. And that's it. That's his line. And then in the next movie, Desmond Llewellyn will make his first of 19 appearances. The only one he wasn't in was Live and Let Die. From then on. And he died and after World's Not Enough, which we'll get to World's Not Enough because the way he goes out is very funny. Is very tragic. Well, not tragic in the movie, but like at the end or like one of his last scenes is just like, I've always tried to teach you two things. First, never let them see you bleed. And the second, always have an escape route. And then he like presses a button and he's being lowered into the ground. And that's one of his last scenes. And then he died like right after. And he was supposed to appear in more after that, but it feels so much like his last, and he's literally being lowered into the grave in his last appearance. So like, but we'll get to World's Not Enough when we get there. Right now we need to get to we'll need to talk to Dr. No. And how can we have a discussion about Dr. No without talking about Dr. No?
Dr. No Time to Die himself. I don't know if he will be the villain in the next movie, but Dr. No, as played by Joseph Wiseman, is like the definitive Bond villain in a sense. He has all the aspects of the future Bond villains already there. He's only in the last 20 minutes of the movie, except for that spider scene.
Yeah, and you see you see the part when he sneaks into Bond's room and then looks at his dick and then puts the covers back.
What edit were you watching? He calls James Bond a cop in the movie. It's great.
No, Honey Ryder calls him, what are you, some kind of detective?
Yeah. He's like, my job doesn't have a defined position yet. Normally I'm known as a traitorous spy, but
basically,
will call myself a secret agent.
Secret agent, yeah. He's basically a paid assassin for the British government.
Yes. Isn't that a line in the Jack White Alicia Keys song, Another Time to Die?
You're just a paid assassin for the British government. Yeah, shooting stuff for the government, shooting a terrorist. And there's a spy, USSR, and Smirsh's on your side. Just kidding, you just think that you could trust, but just another way to die. That's wow. How did we get like a recording of that version of the song? I don't think it made it in the legit, but it sounds pretty good. Why wasn't it there?
Full disclosure, everyone, we were able to book Jack White and Alicia Keys.
They've been waiting
for our podcast. They are quarantining with us right now.
Jack White and Alicia Keys are in my brother's living room. They've been living on the couch for 3 months. There's nowhere to go because
Get a job, you
there's nowhere to job, so they're just watching Bond movies with us. they anyway, back to Dr. No. What are your thoughts on the character of Dr. No and Joseph Wiseman's performance?
Obviously, the yellow face is mild but still concerning. Dr. No tellingly
Yeah.
only has Chinese and Jamaican henchmen. I think he has one white guy who's an engineer you see at the end. Otherwise, most of his henchmen
Yeah.
are people of color, which is a whole coding thing with James Bond. But as to Wiseman's performance itself, I like what he brings to Dr. No. Dr. No is a man of dignity. He's a man of refinement. You get the sense, he says it, he has been rejected by both the East and the West. In the book, his hands, he has no hands.
He has
He has two
claws.
robot hands, his claws, which in the book look like what they did in Live and Let Die with Mr. Big. I think
No,
in the book
that's
they literally are
Teehee.
claws.
Teehee has the claws.
Teehee is
Teehee.
the one with claws in Live and Let Die. But in this movie, he does have these cool little hands, and in the book, the Tong cut them off, but in the movie, it was because he was messed with radiation poisoning. So he joins Spectre in the movie. He brings up Spectre to Bond,
Yeah.
and he says, "Bond, you don't get it. I'm an exceptional man. You're an exceptional man. Come and join Spectre, where we can be exceptional criminal brains together." And he's like, "No, you're stupid. I'm a cop."
No, he has.
gonna
Well, he also
kill
has
you.
one of the funniest lines that, or like the best tongue-in-cheek lines, like in reaction to that. He's like, "Well, I was always interested in joining the revenge department." When he's explaining, like, special executive for counterintelligence, terrorism, revenge, and extortion. He's like, "Well, I've always had a keen interest in the revenge department." That's one of the funniest lines
Connery's
of the
really
movie.
funny in this.
Sergeant, make sure he doesn't get away. There's so many really good tongue-in-cheek lines that Connery does that only he could.
They were late to their, what was it? They were late to their own funeral?
No, I think they're on their way to a funeral.
That's when he throws some henchmen off a cliff.
No, they drive off a
But,
cliff. It's the three blind mice in the
Yeah.
hearse, and they're trying to run them off the cliff, and then Bond uses a rear screen projection to evade to escape from his from being driven off the cliff.
Yeah. But you know who couldn't escape his untimely fate? Dr. No.
Oh,
That scene at the end where him and Bond are actually going toe to toe because his big metal hands
Yes.
he can actually use
I
as
love it.
like dead weight weapons. And then Bond
love
knocks him into like this radioactive like drowning thing,
and he
and he
can't
tries
climb
to
out.
like raise. Yeah, but he can't because of his metal hands. Like it's so touching almost. Like Joseph Wiseman makes you feel bad. For
Yeah,
him.
well, no, and the way
can't
it's shot
escape.
also is just like agonizingly trying to grab hold of the metal bar and stuff, but he can't because his hands are too smooth for the metal thing.
My hands are too perfect.
My hands are
It's
too
like
perfect. Yeah, no, that's a great death. Even if it's like it's a very short fight. It's a good one nevertheless. And yeah, no, I Dr. No is in the top 3 of my favorite Bond villains. Like Joseph Wiseman is like perfect, Yellowface aside. This movie also has like a couple instances where it's just like I don't understand why there's Yellowface, but like besides that, he's one of the best Bond villains. He plays it with such intensity. Like he's so like just in the zone with everything he says, and apparently like he hated the role afterward. He'd like hate how like people would bring it up to him, go like, "Yeah, no, I was in like this piece of shit movie," because he was a stage actor. And
Yes. He also did he also played a dying eccentric whose maid is Diane Keaton on an episode of The Night Gallery, which was Rod Serling's follow-up to The Twilight Zone.
yes, but yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with you about Joseph Wiseman. He's pretty pretty great. I love the it's weird how lumbering his hands are, and when he's like he has his hands behind his back, they don't like clench together. He just kind of like holds
Yeah.
them like dead weight, and the only time you see his hands move is when he crushes the doll, just when anyone gets in my way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole dinner scene elevates the movie. I wish he was in more of the movie, and he also dies a more dignifying death than in the book, because like in the
Yes, in the book he gets bat guano dropped on him.
yep, he gets crushed by bat shit. And like in the book, he's a lot more Fu Manchu in the book,
Yeah.
and in the movie they try to
Yeah.
not make, they do it like totally different, which is
Yes.
good.
For the good of all.
Yeah,
For the greater good.
for the greater good. The greater good.
To quote another Bond. I think I would agree that last third is what makes the movie special. Like out of the
Well, it's
Bonds
the
I've
first
seen,
the
I'm
first
up to
part of the
about
movie, and like when he gets to Jamaica, the movie kind of slows down, except for like the fight scene. But then the movie picks back up. Yeah, definitely when they're in the. I think Ken Adam pretty much is like one of the main figures to credit why we still talk about James Bond, because like without those production designs, it probably would have been like fairly generic.
Yeah. Because they picked Dr. No because they felt it was in one location.
Yeah.
So it made it easier to adapt.
Right.
But like when you see that lair, like I can't even imagine being in like 1962 and seeing that lair. Because you had stuff like Forbidden Planet or the Rinky Dinky Bat Cave
Mhm.
in the Batman serial, but that's a secret lair in Dr. No. Like that is fully fledged. That is like a whole
Everything
subterranean world.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you got like the safe
To the
doors,
point,
the automatic doors that open up and shut. You got the giant fish.
he's coming for you. I love at the end of the movie after he's killed Dr. No, he's trying to find Honey Rider and James Bond. Like it's like the ending of Spaceballs almost. The
It
lair
is.
is going to blow up, and all the employees of the lair are like running, and James Bond is like running to someone's secretary, and he's like, "Where's Honey Rider?" And she's like, "He's in the other room." And he goes, "Okay," and then he runs into that room, finds one guard, punches him.
Yeah.
After talking like calmly to everyone in the lair.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, what?
And then he frees her from being drowned slowly to death. Or
Yeah.
like, well, her fate was supposed to be with crabs, but all the crabs died before they got to set. Because that was in the book, was that she was supposed to be pinched to death by crabs, but then they tried to do that, and all the crabs were dead when they flew them to London for the shoot, which is kind of funny. But I don't know that they were dead, but they said that they were like frozen and they just couldn't move, and they looked like,
I heard they were dead, frozen. I've also heard that they didn't look scary on screen. Like, they didn't look intimidating.
mm-hmm.
But if you read the book, apparently the way Honey Rider got free in the book was, yeah, he tried to kill me with honey crabs. They're not intimidating. So even in the book, the idea was they would be an ineffectual death trap, I think, from what I've heard. Going back to a point I made at the beginning of the podcast, what no one talks about with Dr. No is when James Bond is crawling through the air vents in Dr. No's base after he's been captured. He has been roughed up. His t-shirt is torn and he's crawling through vents. When he gets out of the vent, he has a red mark on his chest and he looks just like John McClane in Die Hard. Watch Dr. No again if you haven't. Sean Connery with his torn t-shirt.
Oh, and he's barefoot because he has the
Really?
slippers too.
He does have the slippers too.
So yeah, he was barefoot, t-shirt, bloody, receding hairline and everything. They're the same.
Fighting a villain who's pretending to be a different nationality than he actually is.
That is true. Yeah. Uh, Freaking John McTiernan, you hack.
Whoever directed Die Hard should be in jail.
I don't know the full story of that case. I'm not here to say if John McTiernan actually deserved to go to jail or not,
Oh,
but he did.
he went to jail. From what I've heard, he didn't need to.
He's
but
out now. He's free now.
He is out
from
now.
what I understand.
But poor John McTiernan. But
yeah,
anyway,
it seemed a little excessive.
imagine if Terrence Young got arrested.
Is he still alive?
No, he's dead. He's been dead for at least 30 years.
They go to arrest Terrence Young. Always have an escape route. He lowers himself back into a grave that says he died 30 years ago. Damn it! How'd he get away?
Oh my god. They actually going back to Terrence Young, one of the good things that he did was that he taught Sean Connery how to act like a sophisticated gentleman and stuff. Like he took him to Savile Row to get his suit tailored for him. He like made him like sleep in his suit like the first night he got it so that he would be like super comfortable. And yeah, told him like what drinks to order, what meals to get, how to walk and stuff. Because like Sean Connery was just, like a Scottish truck driver that turned into a weightlifter and an actor. So he was very
And an idol of millions.
And Ian Fleming wasn't very happy with his casting at first because
No, he wasn't. He's like
the antithesis of the proper British Hoagie Carmichael man that Ian Fleming imagined. And this guy was like more badass, and I think he didn't like that. And Scottish, though he ended up making Bond Scottish later on, and he ended up liking Sean Connery's performance.
In tribute to Connery and acknowledging that Connery basically made the character the icon that he is.
I think Sean Connery said Ian Fleming was kind of a dick. I don't remember. Don't quote me on that, but I think I remember hearing something like
the vibe I got from Ian Fleming's writing and his dealings with Kevin McClory is that yes, Ian Fleming was kind of a dick.
He created one of the greatest characters in 20th century literature and film, but kind of an asshole, to put it mildly.
His cousin Christopher Lee was supposed to play Dr. No. They did offer the role to him.
Noel Coward was supposed to do it too.
Yes, and he answered it with a telegram that said, Dr. No, no.
Oh, let's talk about the gun barrel and opening scene. We haven't got a chance to talk about that. We got our first Bond opening scene.
We have a debate. Me and Jake have had this debate for years over whether or not Three Blind Mice counts as a Bond theme. I am adamant that it does.
No, to quote Noel Coward. It's, of course not.
Dancing silhouettes with lyrics at the beginning of the movie.
No, it is the James Bond theme, which I don't want to count because that's not fair to the rest of the songs, because none of them are the James Bond theme. But like, it's the James Bond, it's weird radioactive beeping James Bond theme, random calypso music, and then Three Blind Mice. And I don't count that. No.
I count Three Blind
Doctor
Mice.
No.
It's like
Julius.
You got the gun barrel music that goes on for a little bit, and then you have the Bond song of the calypso while dancing. Like this opening sequence is like some weird combination of 2001 and like the 2002 Scooby-Doo. Like
I like the gun barrel. I actually like Bob Simmons because it's not Sean Connery as James Bond in the gun barrel. It's a stunt double because they couldn't get Connery.
No.
And they had like a pinhole camera and they shot it through a gun. I think like an airsoft gun or no, like a BB gun or something. and Bond has his hat, which is a staple up until Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
Which actually, can we detour a little bit and talk about James Bond's hat and how I like James Bond wearing a hat?
James Bond's hat is so weird, especially when it's Bob Simmons wearing the hat, because he looks like a little British man. He looks like John Steed
Uh-huh.
from the Avengers a couple of years later.
Yeah.
And then when Connery wears the hat, the few times he did the gun barrel, it looks weird.
Yeah, no, because the
little
way
like tut
the little hat, yeah. But I like Bob Simmons' performance more so than Sean Connery's performance in the gun barrel. That's how nerdy I am. I'm talking about the gun barrel performance now. Like Bob Simmons, the way I like how he's completely silhouetted, how you can't tell who the fuck he is. I like because it looks kind of creepy and weird, I guess, like in that first thing. Like I can't imagine like what people like felt like when they first saw that. They're just like, what the hell is this? And then it just goes into the
It's such a great visual
Yeah.
of like a man through a gun hole and then he
shoots and the blood
and
comes
starts
down.
bleeding.
Like it's a great way to open up like it's like a good series tradition that they decided to fuck up in the Craig era. That not one actually except for Casino Royale, they did a good subversion of that in Casino Royale, but everything else is crap. The way they did the gun barrel.
Yeah, it's one of those old school like motifs that new movies, like Star Wars movies, don't even like to do the opening crawl anymore, except for the episodes. And it's like, no, it's an impot. It communicates the tone of the series.
Yeah, but
the
they're
very
trying.
beginning.
But Troy, it's supposed to be a dark, serious movie about a space war.
I thought Solo was supposed to be a lighthearted heist film about a space war.
No,
And now they're
no,
suicide
they have to be
bombers.
serious.
Oh, movies.
But
What a time to be alive.
there are no movies.
One more thing I did want to point out about the cultural legacy of Dr. No. In Dr. No's lair, his henchmen all wear radioactive suits that are
Yes.
gray and they have a little speaker thing.
Yes.
Now, if you're an old school Marvel Comics fan, you'll recognize those gray outfits as being what the henchmen for the terrorist organization AIM,
Oh.
Advanced Idea Mechanics,
Mhm.
in Iron Man and Captain America. They were the yellow suits versions of that. They're called the Beekeepers. And it looks just like Dr. No. And I'm like, Jack Kirby, you thief? You stole this from Dr. No. I know it because I watched it.
I know it. You hack, Jack Kirby. Just
You hack, you fraud.
ripping off Dr. No, the first film in the Bond series. You piece of shit. Fuck you. Anyway,
I was very angry in Iron Man 3. They did not keep the AIM suits when Aldrich Killian said he was the leader of AIM. I'm like, put him in the Beekeeper outfit. Anyway. What, now he's the Mandarin? Now he's Dr. No? How did this happen?
Oh, weird segue. I found out yesterday. I didn't watch the James Bond Jr. series, but Dr. No reappears in that, and he looks like the Mandarin. He has like glowing green skin because he was radioactive, because he got lowered into the radioactive water at the end of the movie, I guess. So like now he's like glowing radioactive and he looks like the Mandarin.
Mr. Bond, you failed to kill me. You have only made me more of a racist stereotype.
That's what radioactivity will do to you. Back to the opening scene. Troy, you're wrong. I don't count it. James Bond theme, but it doesn't count. What do you think of Underneath the Mango Tree? Would you turn that on your Spotify?
I love Underneath the Mango Tree. It's a return to form for Sean Connery. He's a delightful singer. He brings such a buoyancy to it.
Underneath the mango tree, my honey and me.
She is my dear, my darling one, my smiling and big island one.
Underneath the mango, underneath the mango, underneath the mango, underneath the mango, mango.
Who's that?
My ears will never be the same again.
I loved all the legally shortened versions of those songs we could use while still doing fair use.
Shall we wrap up? What are our final thoughts on Dr. No? Letterbox ratings?
Ooh. Do you want to go first, Jake, or me?
You can go first.
All right. Yeah, my final thoughts on Dr. No, you can read them on Letterboxd, but my final thoughts on Dr. No after watching it twice, it's an above average film. It is a good, solid spy thriller that is elevated by the performances of Bond, the performance of Connery and Wiseman, and that awesome secret lair finale, and all the little iconic touches you get to see for the first time. I give it 3.5 out of 5 stars, but a high 3.5.
Ooh, that's good. And yeah, I would give it like 4. I might have given it a 5, but it's probably more like a 4 if I'm being totally honest. One of my favorite Bond movies in my top 10. Yeah, it's a little it's the start of the formula, but there's a lot there to like, including Connery and Joseph Wiseman and the theme, and and Ken Adam. So definitely check it out. If you get the chance, if Amazon decides to put them back on, please watch it. If you've already seen it, watch it again. It's a good time. It's really fast and quick, and it's good. And better movies will come.
It is. I would say I'm going to be bold here. It's my second favorite Connery Bond.
Ooh.
Of the broccoli Connery Bond. So
That's-
it is one of my top 5 Bonds, and I would recommend it even if you are not a Bond fan.
Yes.
So to speak. It'll give you a good taste of the series.
Yeah, it's a good starting out point. It's a pretty well-formed prototype of a Bond movie. So definitely check it out. And yeah, and that's it for this week of You'll Only Listen Twice. We hope that you'll listen to it for a third time when we get to talking about what is considered to be the best Sean Connery Bond movie, but I think both Troy and I disagree with that statement, but we still like it, I think.
Yeah.
But
I need to revisit it. Yes.
I need to rewatch it again. I really like From Russia with Love, but we'll get into more details on the next episode of You'll Only Listen Twice. I'm Jake.
I'm Troy.
Mission accomplished. Bam bam! Doctor No, Doctor No, Doctor No, Doctor No!
My smiling and big island one.
The mango, the mango, underneath the mango, underneath the mango, underneath the mango.
Some people will go to any extremes for a little privacy.